Right now, as we introduce an African Future, this happens every Tuesday where we connect on things that are happening in and around Africa. And today we're focusing on the fact that there's an estimated 300 million Africans who don't speak their language on social media.
Absolutely.
You know how much power there is in that. I mean, 300 million Africans. What is wrong with us? Right, joining me in studio is a difficult task in telling us what is wrong with us. He's known to many as Willy Seyama, joining us in studio as founder and CEO of Initiate. These are integrated solutions of Pan-African Digital Agency with other partners throughout Africa. They came up with this concept that hashtag African Language Day. I would like to know also why not in February? Why now? Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Sis Criselda.
What's wrong with us?
Well, we tend to embrace other languages above ourselves. When you consider that in Benin, as an example, their official language is French. None of the local languages are termed official, in which case it means that you don't get them in formal written documentation.
Wow.
From government to courts, nothing.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And I remember traveling through DRC where everything was in Portuguese.
There you go.
Why aren't we even jealous?
Well,
at least be jealous.
Yeah. I suppose we were taught to believe that if we speak foreign languages, and especially English and French, because those are the two most dominant foreign languages in Africa.
Yeah.
We are more intelligent. We are better.
Especially
we will hopefully also be richer.
Oh, Nkosiyam. But unfortunately, that's how the world operates until you get to France, where if you don't speak French, you can never do business. You go to China, if you're not connected to Mandarin, you can never sign any business deal.
That's us. But I must also admit, though, that we have one or two exceptions. The one such that really stands out is Tanzania, where Kiswahili is really the national language, even though there are people speaking English.
Yeah. Because we're not saying that in English or in our case, Africans must go away. But you just simply say, recognize. I mean, when you posted those numbers on who speaks what, it was tragic that these languages don't even make it as official languages in our education system.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the date. We'll talk about what's happening on the date. But why choose? In actual fact, let's start with what inspired. And I know that I shouldn't even be asking this question as an African who feels robbed of my connection to being a Xhosa. Why this particular campaign?
I mean, I suppose one can choose to be controversial and say even this interview shouldn't be in English.
Well, we are on SAFM, and English is one of the official. If we were in Mgalolonene or Ukhozi FM, that would have been tragic.
I'm just being controversial. Here's what inspired this campaign, Sis Criselda. I was actually here on Ashraf's show way back when it was when he had the media show on Sundays. And at that stage, I shared with him interesting stats that show that our languages are going to die by the end of the century. They're going to die because we don't use them, and especially so on the likes of social media. And when you consider how important social media has become as a communication channel, we don't speak our languages there. UNESCO published a study in 2003 which tells us that half of the languages across the world are going to die by the turn of the century. But what makes it even more critical is that the bulk of such languages come from Africa.
Wow.
The third one is that in a lot of cases, the younger ones are texting more than they are talking. So when you have a combination,
it's not even proper language. This thing that they're doing.
There you go. So the combination of those three is basically saying our languages are in great danger. Now, when you consider that language and culture go together, if the language dies, so will the culture, naturally. I'm a modern man, and I embrace modern ways of doing things, but I'm also very jealous of my own culture. If I can do anything to preserve the culture, which then means I must preserve the language, I will do exactly that. And I do believe that a lot of us Africans would do, culture is identity. And if there's anything that we can do to preserve it, we must do exactly that. So those three things basically inspired the need for this campaign to be in place.
Okay. So why then choose and not connect to UNESCO's International Mother Tongue Day? And I love it when it's called Mother Tongue for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Why choose May the 25th?
Because when you think of it, even though UNESCO has christened this day to encourage people across the world to speak their mother tongues, we felt that African languages are more at risk, and as a result, they deserve their own moment in the sun. And when we looked around for a date, it felt natural for us that it should be the Africa Day, which is May 25th.
Yeah.
And we lobbied for it and spoke to a whole lot of people across the continent, and they felt that that would be the right date, and that's the date that we went with it as a result. If you allow me, there's just one thing I didn't mention. There was a study that came out by a company called Portland's Communications. The study is titled How Africa Tweets. It came out in 2015, and it conclusively showed that we do not tweet in our languages.
Wow. And we can. Because when the dictionary on Twitter tells you that's not how it's spelled, you actually should teach them, correct?
There you go.
All right. We invite you to just give us a call on 0891 104 207 or WhatsApp note on 0614 104 107. And for this particular conversation, we encourage you that as you go on air, greet us in your own language. Greet us in your home language, and then you can switch back to English.
At SAFM Radio and at Positive GP on Twitter.
All right, we invite you to give us a call, 0891 104 107, 104 207. And you can also send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Let's take pride in our languages as we talk about a campaign, African Languages Day. It's a hashtag campaign that is going to be online, challenging us that on the 25th of May, speak your language and take pride in it. So what is call to action?
It's really simple, because we also wanted to make sure that we don't give our fellow Africans any excuse. You have to just do what you do every day, which is post on Facebook or tweet on Twitter. Just do it in your language. The interesting thing about Twitter specifically is that it has now increased the character limit to 280. So for many
There's
of
more
us,
space
absolutely,
to write boqaqamag, because some of our languages, they take space and characters.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
And I'd like to quote an example, because we see this a lot. Swahili right now is the most tweeted language on Twitter. Understandably so, because the Tanzanians don't, what's the word that I'm looking for? Abanki chance when it comes to their language.
They take pride.
They tweet in their language.
Yeah.
So we know that it can be done. We had this a lot from some of the people we spoke to. They were saying, but now we have friends and followers across the social networks who will not hear us, and so on and so on. And the question we're asking is, this is going to be one day, for now at least. Are you saying you're not willing to sacrifice that one day just so that you can do something to preserve your language?
But why are my followers and fans not learning my home language?
There you go.
What are they following? And if I'm not going to encourage them to connect to who I am, who are they following?
Yeah. And there is trouble with it, and the trouble that we're sitting with when you consider that, as I indicated, Swahili is the most tweeted language, and it's also the most spoken language on the continent. The numbers that we share on the African Languages Day timeline are actually conservative. The numbers that get punted around when it comes to Swahili, from a spoken language point of view, are anything between 120 and 150 million. So if you have Twitter that wasn't indexing Swahili up until 2 weeks ago, it really says we have to be doing something significant if we are to get social networks to index African languages.
So here's what you tweeted, and it just got me to stand upright. That Swahili, 98 million people speak, not 90,000, 98 million people. And where is Hausa from?
Hausa is spoken in northern Nigeria and some West African countries.
Because most of us only know the Yoruba.
Absolutely.
And that's 40 million.
Yeah.
And this Hausa is 63 million.
And that number has been disputed even, because the speakers tell you that there's more.
Wow. There's Fulani, 28 million.
Yeah.
Igbo, we also know Igbo a lot.
Yeah.
27 million. isiZulu, 27 million.
Now, I want to clarify that number, because I had a lot of people saying,
it's
this
not possible.
What I want people to just take note of is we're not talking first language speakers only.
Yes,
and
it's languages you can speak.
There you go. And we know for a fact that Zulu is the most spoken language in all the urban areas for that matter. So when you add second language speakers to that too, 17 million of Zulu speakers are second language speakers.
Whoa.
And the first language speakers, there's only 11 million. And this number can be checked, by the way, because some of the people have been punting numbers lower than even 11 for the first language speakers. So the combination of the first language speakers, which is 11, plus the second language speakers gives you that number, which is 27.
And then Beses Zoba Neskosa, 19 million.
Yes.
Huh. All right, let's take your calls, 0891 104 207, and also your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. And you can connect with us on Twitter and Facebook. SAFM Radio is where we at, and you can hashtag us SAFM Lifetime Live. And as you call us, we encourage you to just greet us in your home language. And you can also SMS us on 40938. SMS is charged at 150. As we're talking about a campaign that is going to see us changing. Shall we say that we're beginning to change the narrative and how we relate to our languages? And joining me in studio, he's known as Bra Willy to many, Bra Willy Seyama. Tell us about Initiate. What does it do exactly?
We are a digital content solutions company. I tend to use an example for many people. We do content for websites and social media. So it kind of becomes relatable in that way.
Indeed. And that's why I asked this question. Because I'm sure there's someone who's asking themselves, what's in it for you? Why this particular campaign? It's right up your alley, right?
It certainly is. And I believe that as Africans, we have to be paying it forward when it comes to things that we're passionate about. I am personally passionate about languages.
Well, I wish this was television so that we can see their passion, as you say, passionate. Yeah?
So it really emanated from that. So it kind of made sense that we took this campaign to the social media space because that's where we play. And we also believe that it is a space that transcends borders, so it allows us to be able to launch this campaign at the least across the continent. But the idea is to launch it globally, because we know that Africans travel, they are everywhere in the world. Fortunately for us, many of them don't leave their languages behind, and we want them to participate on the 25th of May.
Are we bound to only wait until the 25th? Because right now my fingers are itching just, tweeting Kasesotho.
For us, the 25th is really the symbol.
Yeah.
The hope is that we can get everybody really participating on that day. But Africans should not be waiting for the 25th. And we've proved it with Swahili.
Yeah.
Where we campaigned so much for Swahili that Twitter got it indexed.
You almost got into trouble.
We did.
Tell us about
We
that.
did. Yeah. Now, a few things happened.
Yeah.
The one is we were making so much noise in that week when Twitter finally indexed Swahili. They actually put their account on pause. The African Languages Day account. They put it on
so
pause.
So annoying.
Because we were now saying, well done, Twitter, but this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if people know, all the top 10 native African languages, all of them are, of those top 10, only Twitter at this stage is indexed. That's why people will see when they tweet in Xhosa and Zulu and Shona and Fulani, and we can go on and on. What they will find is Twitter will either recognize their language as Indonesian or Vietnamese or Haitian Creole or, but never what that language is. So to date, it's only Twitter. And as I say, it's only been 2 weeks ago. So
right,
it was out of
let's check
the
news headlines. And when we return, we have a couple of SMSs, and one of them saying Swahili is no different from English and Afrikaans. It's a forced language. And let's respond to that when we return. Here's Kanyisile Manyoni with the headline news.
Lifetime Live with Criselda Dudumashe.
All right, we take your messages as we connect with you using our African languages, and there's a call to action from Initiate, and this company with an E, not as an I,
yes,
right?
Yes.
E for electronics.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming. All right, joining me in studio is CEO and founder of Initiate Integrated Solutions, as we talk about a campaign that's calling us to tweet and converse in our African languages on the 25th. All right, let's take your messages right now and invite you to give us a call on 0891 104 207 or your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Speedo says, Tobela, difahulwa kwena, Criselda. Omopedi, so you'll tell me what that means.
Actually, that's an interesting one, and I'll try and be very short on it. Kibua Sesotho sa Borwa,
Okay.
which is Southern Sotho. But we know that the Sotho languages are grouped together, the three of them being Sesotho, Setswana, le Sepedi.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
so
and I
can,
guess your friends are Pedi speaking people, so I assumed.
Truth be told, I have friends across the board, and now across the continent for that matter. I cannot claim to know all the languages, but when it comes to Sotho languages, I have a fair handle.
Fair understanding, yeah?
Yeah.
So, Fakhola King.
Fakhola must be, just the way it sounds, it must be saying Wadi better.
I assume that. So, to Khole, is it Khole or Goal, saying, to me, Swahili is no different from English and Afrikaans, or Afrikaans. They are forced languages, and I learn a language that give financial or added advantages.
Okay, there's 2 points to that SMS. The one point is, how was Swahili formed? The other point is the whole trade-related aspects of a language.
Yeah.
Now, Swahili comes from Africa, so it could not have been forced on Africans when they were the ones who created it. And I know that there's a lot of debate about the Arabic aspects of Swahili, but I know for a fact that there is no single language that was created and it's a standalone language. Even English, it's got aspects of Italian, it's got
Xhosa.
Greek, and
Xhosa with no
there
English
you go.
doesn't make sense.
There you go.
Sipitori without Afrikaans doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. So we cannot use that as a reason why Swahili cannot be African. We know for a fact that it was created in Africa. The trade aspect to it, Swahili is a trade language in East Africa. Yeah. I would urge the sender of the SMS to travel to East Africa. It is a language of trade,
official.
and it is not used by black people only.
Yeah.
It's used by everyone who's doing trade in East Africa as we speak.
Because as the East African countries, you said if you want to trade with us, learn our languages.
Absolutely. And, there's about 5 East African countries where Swahili is fairly dominant.
All right. Let's take a WhatsApp voice note and then we'll take your calls. We have a WhatsApp voice note.
Let's face it. Sanibona ninjani ngiyaphila. But let's face it, the language thing on social media, I don't think our languages are of effect, because the medium of communication around the world, and when you want to do business and other things or share ideas with other people, there is only one language they understand, and that is English, Yes, this can benefit us if we communicate as South Africans or as Africans. If there is a language that we all understand, then we can communicate in that when you have friends who speak that language. But with the world at large, the only medium of communication is English. That's how you can express yourself, and you can make yourself clear.
One of the humble requests is that when you record your voice note, at least walk away from the radio, because it's very disturbing to listen to ourselves as you record yourself, and especially when it's a conversation that we've had already. So we humbly request, just make sure that it's audible, so that when we put it on air, it's not disturbing to the ear. Let's go to Aubokwe in Midrand. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for using your name. Aubokwe.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Kamuhao, Lena.
Yes. I would like to believe I'm somehow passionate about the topic as well. However, I'm also of the opinion that South Africans' approach, even the way it is being discussed right now, it's a bit naive. Come to think of it, Swahili is no one's mother tongue, and there are many tribes in Tanzania, in Kenya, that are speaking Swahili, but it's not their mother tongue. But then in South Africa, you are saying we must speak our mother tongue and your followers must understand your language. But we are speaking of 9 languages here. So my proposal, whenever I speak to my friends, I always say, just as there is Swahili, South Africa was supposed to have developed a language that they can develop to an extent of being a lingua franca, or as they call it, a business language, an African language that is a business language. That a rural Motswana like me can meet a vendor and still be able to communicate, not necessarily in English. But right now, the only way we meet each other is through English. And I believe that's where our problem lies. And I'm glad now that the stat says 27 million of people speak Zulu. As much as in Botswana, I believe it's either we develop a language or we just elevated one of the existing ones, in this case, Zulu.
Thank you, Abako.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciated. Let's go to Bui in Cape Town. Good afternoon and welcome.
Molweni ninjani?
Molo siphilile nkosi unjani wena?
Siyaphila nkosi.
Siyabulela.
Just a comment on these researches and results that they get from them. I really don't believe them. I don't believe UNESCO. I don't believe these things, because people in Ngamakwe, people in Kresi are speaking Xhosa, pure Xhosa. And that language, that culture, that tradition will remain for centuries to come. These researchers focus on the 10% of people in South Africa that are using social media. It's not the rest of us. It's not all of us that are using it. So we have to be, we just select a few, those of us that are staying in urban areas, and we believe that. It's misleading. I'm a Xhosa, I tell you Xhosa.
I'm actually confused, because you're agreeing with the campaign, but you are saying you don't agree. I'm not sure
I don't agree with the fact that the languages and the traditions will die in a century or so.
Oh, I see.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't believe it's because sizawuphela. I don't believe ukuthi sizawuyeka amasiko ethu.
Okay, all right.
I don't believe that.
So UNESCO is making this up because they do tend to, in time X, people's languages will be extinct. Thank you very much for that contribution. We hear you now. Henry in Cape Town, good afternoon.
Betwab. So when I say to you Betwabu, you say Bet.
Bet.
Yes. So that is a Luba greetings from the DRC. Look, I agree with the gentleman. I don't care if we have to communicate to 1% or 0%, but these languages has to be preserved, really. I sincerely think it should start first from our homes. That should be the first thing. And then the second thing, government. It has been almost 27 years. I'm hearing this debate on SAFM about how to streamline South African indigenous languages. And nothing is done. There is a lot of politically correct languages that we use, but nothing is done concretely. And it has been proven in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Rwanda, Burundi, in all those countries that speak Swahili as the lingua franca, as the gentleman say, or the mother tongue. They have introduced it in primary school. I spoke my language in primary school for 4 years. From grade 1 to grade 5, I've been speaking my mother. I've been taught and spoken to in my mother tongue. They have left my country almost 30 years ago, and I'm still perfectly speaking my tongue, and I'm trying my best to teach my kids the same language. So to me, it has to start from the family, and it has to become an official policy of African countries to preserve the languages. And then secondly, we have to move away from the excuses of saying no, only 2% can hear us and 7% can hear us. The Chinese themselves, they don't communicate in English. They communicate into their mother tongue. They don't communicate in English. It doesn't matter if you go to QQ or Baidu, wherever there, you find them with their own platform, their own language. It is about time that we promote our languages without any excuses. It is correct. Now, the issue of Swahili being a forced language, it is not necessarily a forced language, but we have to agree that Arabs colonized the East and forced a specific type of communications that evolved over the years into what is called Swahili. But it is not a forced language because Arabs themselves don't speak Swahili. It is only spoken in Africa.
All right. Thank you very much, Henry. Loud and clear. Hi, Criselda and guests. Sawubona, dumelang, goeiedag. Good afternoon, salam alaikum. And I am a multi-language fan. Thank you for the program. And that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
No need to prove whether the stats are correct or incorrect. Bottom line is 25 May. We are just urged to connect to our African languages.
Yeah.
You go to any mall and you see families. Families are not speaking their languages. English is supposedly dominating conversations with families as well. I always encourage my daughters to speak to me on social media in our home language, be it we WhatsApping one another. And it's tough. It's very difficult because we've let this go on for so long.
I think I want to urge South Africans to travel more within the continent, and they will realize that there are places where English is not as dominant as you think it is.
Until you travel, you get to know that your English is hopeless, it's useless.
Absolutely. So the assertion that English is a trade language across the world is actually incorrect.
Yeah.
You've just said yourself that the Chinese, they trade in their language.
That's it.
And many parts of Western Europe, for that matter, they trade in their languages. The French, the Danish, and you can keep counting. The Portuguese, the Spanish, they trade in their languages. So the assertion that it's English across the board is actually incorrect. So what we should be asking as Africans, and I think that's where really we should focus our energies as opposed to questioning whether the numbers are correct or not, is which of the languages do we develop for us to be able to do trade across the continent? Here's the deal. The deal is money always follows business. So wherever there's business, money will follow. If, as part of it, we grow our languages and they become that strong, money will always follow that. We see it in China. And all sorts
and
of...
in France.
There you go.
Yeah, the French.
And in Portugal.
And in Portugal.
And so on and so on, yeah.
So how do we connect to the campaign?
What we are urging, not only South Africans, but all Africans across the world, is to connect through the hashtag African Languages Day and speak their languages on social networks across the board.
Yeah.
Because the strength is in our numbers. We must remember what the aim is. The aim is to ensure that our languages are indexed properly by the social networks. In this case, we're talking the top 10 languages.
Yeah.
Thankfully, South Africans will know that 2 of the South African languages are in the top 10, which are isiZulu and isiXhosa. So from that perspective, it gives us every reason why we must participate as South Africans in this campaign.
Yeah. And indexed would mean when I say Ndiakuthanda to my person on social media, I must have that hat, not a correction.
Absolutely.
Of the spelling. Thank you very much for joining us. And as we're having a conversation about hashtag African Languages Day with Willy Seyama, joining us as founder and CEO of Initiate.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And our next conversation, we're going to talk about Drive More Safely. And this is a conversation around NGOs and campaigns, just looking at the good work that is being done. And in line of the many accidents that are out there, we thought perfect song would be borrowing from an old-time classic of Tracy Chapman, and this time around performed by Yasmin Thompson, Fast Car.